Super Bowl. So it's going to be a fun matchup, I think. Maybe not so much for you right now, being a Chiefs fan, but a fun matchup nonetheless. Some new blood, all that. It's going to be, I think, a lot of fun to watch in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think like the key part is like the Rams getting in and like makes this game really attractive from either Matt Stafford or Joe Burrow winning the Super Bowl. I mean, it makes it attractive from like the 49ers are clearly like they're going to play defense, try and run the ball, like do all these things. I think this game sets up kind of for a shootout if the coaches want to play that way. Although, you know, the Bengals yesterday were running on first down into the second half, even though they were trailing or on first down. And then they were running even on second down, sometimes trying to establish the run. The Rams kind of have done that with Akers yesterday. We kind of talked about that on the podcast before. So it's just, that'll be interesting. And one thing I've noticed, like, we've been tracking the lines yesterday since they went live is like the total has dropped a full point in the last, hour. I noticed like around 10 o'clock Mountain Time where I'm at, it dropped from 49.5 to 49, and now it's 48.5, and maybe kind of keeps going down. It's interesting because like honestly, like most of the bettors, like Super Bowls have like these betting trends that people have tracked throughout the years, where it's the underdogs get a lot of money line bets, which is why you're seeing the money line, like the Bengals are plus 155 right now. And then we've seen the Rams go from like 3.5. It kind of opened at 3.5 on the look ahead line, and now it's at 4, which 4 doesn't really matter because it's kind of like this weird number that never lands in the NFL. So, although we're going to say that, and then it'll completely hit the Super Bowl.
24-20.
Yeah. So, but from a betting point of view, typically 4 and 5 are not key numbers in betting. So, I saw a lot of bettors talking about how they were going to bet up, take the Rams up to -6 or 6.5 and just like get the added juice on that value. So that was kind of interesting yesterday. A lot of people were talking about that when the lines came out. So, I think it's going to be a really good Super Bowl. And I think it'll be interesting to see if the Bengals take the same strategy that the Patriots used in that Super Bowl, which ended up being what the final score was, 13-3 or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that. But remember, Zach Taylor was on the Rams staff for years. Like he's been with Sean McVay for a long time. So if anything, they know each other really, really well. So that'll be, and that storyline is definitely going to come out in the next couple of weeks here.
Oh, for sure. But we got 2 weeks to unearth every single possible story we could talk about with this game. So that's definitely one of the easy ones, one of the low-hanging fruit ones that we're going to hear plenty of over these next 13 days. So the 4 is interesting to me, and for the reasons you said. I mean, it's obviously going to be one of the key numbers to be watching over these next 13 days. So right now, what's your lean? If it was Rams -4 in this in Super Bowl 56, what's your lean as we're looking at this right here? If you had to bet it today, what would your bet be?
My bet would be Rams, and then I bet the under last night too. So I got Rams -3.5, which has jumped up to 4, which I wasn't surprised. Not that big of a difference.
Right.
And then like the under, I'm just thinking that my gut instinct is that the Bengals and the Rams are going to run more than we think. So and we've seen like the player props start to come out, like, but there's not a passing attempts prop. Like Burrow yesterday went under his passing attempts at 38.5, even though he was down in the game most of the game until the end and had to play catch up. So, I mean, I just think that these teams aren't going to, like, I don't think we're going to have an extreme shootout. I don't think it's going to be a boring, like, 13-3 game, but I think these coaches are going to try and control the ball in the second half more than they are in the first half.
I mean, go back and look at the way these two teams played all regular season. This was something this became a familiar theme of this show with the Bengals specifically about halfway through the season. Like, they are a team that certainly can play into the 30s when they need to. They have the juice offensively to just get there with a couple of big plays. Like, use the first Chiefs game as an example. They had to get to the 34 mark. They got to the 34 mark. You can look at the game the week before that against the Ravens when the Ravens just couldn't stop them, and they rolled up, 42 points in that game, something ridiculous like that. So, like, they have the ability to play there when it's called for. They have the ability, the explosiveness to get there when they're just playing an A++ sort of game. But it's just, it's not really their style. They are not the Chiefs. They are not the Bills, and a team that is built to play into the 30s to win every single time they take the field. That's just not the Bengals, no matter what you see with their offensive abilities and all the skill players that they have. The Chargers were another team we talked about a lot in this same sort of vein, and they were a team that you just look at the names on paper and you think, oh, this is going to be a team that not only can play shootouts, but wants to play shootouts. And then you watch the way that, they actually call their offense, and it's just not how it is. It's not how they are built stylistically to play. The Bengals are like that too. So I'm with you. I think that this, so this would have to drop down to like another 1.5 maybe before I wanted to either stay away or bet the over. At 48 or more, I feel pretty comfortable with the under in this one. These are just two teams that are stacked with skill players at every position, but don't necessarily play the Bills-Chiefs style of football on offense that is a lot of fun. But it takes a special kind of offense, not just with the talent, but with the scheme to get us playing like that consistently.
Yeah, and if you get into the analytics conversation, like the analytics, like the Bengals in the beginning of the first half of the year, they weren't throwing the ball a ton because I think they were protecting Burrow.
I think they were. Joe Burrow fantasy teams can attest to that.
Right, and I had you and I went back and forth a ton on Burrow. I had Burrow and Chase, and we were like, "Oh, do I trade him?" Like
Burrow leading the NFL in passing yards was a prop of mine that I ripped up by like week 4. Like, oh, this isn't happening.
Right,
the volume wasn't there the way we thought it was going to be.
Right, and now, but in the second half of the season, they opened it up, and that Ravens game, like they didn't have the Ravens didn't have a secondary, so they were just attacking the heck out of them. And I mean, I in this game, I wonder what's going to happen if the Bengals can't run the ball against the Ravens or the Rams defensive line, and what their strategy is. Do they just open up the playbook and just start playing backyard football with Joe Burrow and say, go win the game? Because they've done that a few times where it's like, hey, go win the game in this way with Burrow. Clearly, like he's the type of quarterback that can do that. And he doesn't have the scar tissue that any other quarterback has. Like Matt Stafford has tons of scar tissue.
We're playing a decade in Detroit.
Burrow doesn't have any scar tissue.
So the one, I think the most familiar storyline that we're all going to be sick of by like this Wednesday or Thursday is going to be the Rams defensive line, and specifically Aaron Donald against the Bengals offensive line. Right, that's going to be the one thing that everyone trots out and tries to point to and sound smart and be like, "Oh, are they gonna blah blah blah? Are they gonna stop them?" That's going to be where the game spins. It's something worth talking about. It's something worth considering, I think. I don't think that's really where this game is going to be won and lost, though. I don't think that. I mean, the Bengals have had a bad offensive line all year. We knew it. This is why so many people thought they were going to take Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase, because they've had a bad offensive line for years. They invest in Joe Burrow. They've got already T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and some pass catchers. I think it's safe to say they made the right decision. But this is like they have played as well to this point with that offensive line, well enough to get into the Super Bowl, to win their division, to knock off the Chiefs 2 times in the span of 5 weeks. I mean, like they have played that well with this line. I think that saying that that's where this game is going to be decided is a little bit just a little too low for where this game actually is going to end up being.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be like
certainly a factor.
They get the ball to Jamar Chase. That's going to be the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if they can get him the ball and he makes the plays, that's how they're going to win the game, I think.
Yeah.
But the question comes back to like Zach Taylor recognized that they're going to probably have to they're going to have to outscore the Rams to win this game. And does Zach Taylor agree with that, or is he still going to put Joe Mixon between the tackles every first down like he did yesterday? Because he did that in the second half still.
Yeah, oh yeah.
First half, okay, like I get it. You're trying to establish like ball control, shut down Mahomes, but I don't understand why they were still running the ball on first down every single time, and the Chiefs knew it was coming.
So my initial lean here is Bengals +4. That would be where I would be going with this. It would have to, realistically, DeWitt, it would have to get to a point it's not going to get to for me to want to bet the Rams. I mean, like if this got under a field goal, then maybe I would start considering the Rams, because I do think when you just put these two teams on paper against one another, the Rams are a slightly better team. They deserve to be about a 4.5 point favorite. I'm totally on board with that. So I don't see myself having a ton of any Rams money in this game, because I like the Bengals with the points, with the way they're playing. Two very good teams, two teams that are maybe at the peak of where they've been all season, with the Rams getting Odell Beckham as involved as they have in this, in this postseason. I mean, it's basically like they haven't skipped a beat since losing Robert Woods. They finally got that Robert Woods replacement in OBJ over these last 3 weeks. So I think this is going to be a very closely played game. If somehow like the Bengals were, -2 or -3, I would like the Rams. I think these two teams are that close to one another that the points really are the difference maker for me in this one. I will be very interested to see where the props come out and where the props land. As you said, we're starting to get a slow trickle of those being posted. The ones that I'm going to be most interested in, DeWitt, really all the receiver stuff. I mean, can you set Cooper Kupp's yardage prop high enough to want to bet against it? I don't think you can. I mean, I think you have like Cooper Kupp would have to have like a 119.5 yardage prop before I thought about not betting on the over.
It's 103.5 right now.
Over. Like,
and then it's his touchdowns. I mean, this is like something that Dan Santaramita, my colleague, we were looking at the props last night, up late, getting some stuff up on the site. His anytime touchdown, it was minus 140, and now it's minus 165. I think both of us bet it last night. We're like, oh, that's like he's had a touchdown in like 11 of 14 games or something like that. It's like he's gonna score a touchdown unless there's just no touchdowns in the game. Yeah, the MVP one's pretty interesting because I feel like if if the Bengals win, I think Joe Burrow is going to win the MVP. Like he's plus 210, so you get a little bit more value on versus the money line.
So don't bet the Bengals money line, bet Burrow MVP.
Yeah, but I think I'm not like Stafford's plus 110. Like I hate that MVP bet because Cooper Kupp 6-1, Aaron Donald's 20-1. If you think that, kind of going back to your defensive line storyline, which I agree is kind of like a cliche, and I think they'll figure out ways to move around him. One I like is Odell Beckham 25-1 because that's pretty good. Is he going to be the one that they like? Eli, like every team has gone after Eli Apple in the postseason. So like who's going to be on Eli Apple? And that like it could be Beckham, and that's that could be a good one.
What'd you say 6-1 on Kupp?
Yeah, 6-1 on Kupp is probably like the best non-quarterback bet. But if you want to go bigger, I mean, I do like Odell Beckham at 25-1 because like, could you see him winning the MVP if he has like a 65-yard touchdown in the third quarter that breaks the game open?
It would have to be something like that. He'd have to go for like 10, 150, and 2 in like a 21-13 victory.
Right, and it has to be a blowout because I mean I don't know. This is getting a little probably in the woods a little bit on this stuff, but. Like the betting on the MVP happens around the 5-minute mark, and what can happen? So 20% of the vote comes from the fans online, which they're probably going to default towards the quarterbacks just because that's how it is. And then the press gets 80% of the vote, but that they have to turn in their votes with 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
So they can pick one or either if the game is close. They usually pick one or either. So like the Mahomes or the 49ers Chiefs, Mahomes won the MVP, even though Darrell Williams should have won Darrell Williams should have won that.
We've got a long history of quarterbacks getting the award when they don't deserve it. At least recent history. The Patriots come back against the Falcons. That was James White's MVP.
Right.
That was robbed.
But that's because they vote early. Vote early. So that's like that's the thing you have to factor in. That's why the quarterbacks are such huge favorites, is because the process of how the MVP is voted on is if it's a close game, it's going to be the quarterback because they have to.
I like Kupp because the thing I like about Kupp is that everyone's going to go into that with the, how long have you been hearing like he's not going to win, but you know who should get a good long look for NFL MVP this year? Cooper Kupp. Everyone's got that kernel in their mind somewhere. And so if he has another 14 for 160 and a touchdown, which that's just basically rolling out of bed sort of game for Cooper Kupp. That's the one. That's if I was going to make a non-quarterback MVP bet, that's what it would be. And I agree with you. It's bet Burrow MVP instead of Bengals money line and Kupp. Those are the two MVP bets I'd be looking at. Plus 110 is just. I mean, come on. There's so many better ways to use your money on plus 110 odds than Matthew Stafford MVP.
Especially for a quarterback who is favored to throw an interception in the game on the player props.
Any other props really quick before we get you out here and start talking some NBA? Any other props that you're going to have your eye on or already have your eye on?
I think I like Burrow over 274.5 just because I think they're going to get forced into throwing the ball a little bit more. But that's just an early lean. I've seen it like it's as high as that's at BetMGM. At FanDuel, it was like 276 already. So I kind of think it's in a trend higher. So that was one I kind of liked early. That's about it right now. I think there is one like Kendall Blanton as an anytime touchdown scorer if he's the tight end who plays for the Rams. Yeah. So that's kind of one I'm looking, but it's already been priced in a little bit. So I wouldn't. They're kind of hedging their bets on that right now. So.
Yeah, obviously we're going to be tracking all this for the next 13 days here. We will have multiple best on the board episodes between now and then where we are going to be talking about all the possible betting angles that we're going to have in this Super Bowl matchup. And be sure to be back with us next Monday when we're going to do something a little different, a little fun with all the props that are available to us. And we'll just leave that out there as a little bit of a tease. Andrew DeWitt, we got a great Super Bowl ahead of us. Excited to talk with you over these next 2 weeks all about it, my friend.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, NBA time here in just a second. First, though, a message from our friends at BetMGM, the presenting sponsor of Best on the Board. Right now, bet $10, win 150. Plus, get 3 free months to The Athletic. All you got to do, go to betmgm.com and use the promo code TheAthleticPod. Again, right now, take advantage of this offer from the king of sportsbooks. It is bet 10 to win 150. Plus, get 3 free months at The Athletic. Just go to betmgm.com and use the code TheAthleticPod. New customer offer, terms and conditions apply. Okay, it's not all football. It is, Super Bowl time. It's an exciting time in the NFL world. Taz Melas from No Dunks, but we still got a lot of basketball to talk. So let's get into it. 8 games on the Monday slate. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'll be here to provide you 13 days of basketball games before your next football game. Although I guess people bet on the Pro Bowl as well.
Oh man, even someone like me who hosts a show like this is like, maybe I'll maybe sit that out. There's full NBA, full college basketball that Sunday. Maybe I'll take a pass on the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and the NHL All-Star Weekend is looking good. There's some new events in Vegas. It looks like fun.
We got a great betting weekend ahead of us, even without any NFL or college football for the first time in a long time. But you and I are here to talk the 8-game Monday NBA slate. You're coming off a very nice week last week, Tess. 2-0 for you. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming through for you, going over his point prop a week ago. And then the other one was Evan Mobley coming through on a point, rebound, and assist. So that moves you to 17-10 on the season, my friend. A very profitable first half plus of the NBA season for you. I'm down at 8-10. Took a loss last week on my Kobe White props. I will say the process was right. Kobe White played 35 minutes in that game for the Bulls against the Thunder. He chucked up something like 10, 12 field goal attempts. Just wasn't hitting. So if you're going to lose, I'll at least take right process, wrong result, rather than wrong process also leading to the wrong result. So 8-10 for me, 17-10 for you. Let's get into it here. You're going to start us off with one of these big-time props. We got Julius Randle, over 18.5 points. Let's hear the argument.
Yeah, I'm a tiny bit reluctant to bet on Julius Randle because unlike Shai and Evan Mobley last week, I'm betting on a cold player here, but he's playing the right team, the Sacramento Kings. That 18.5 point line is not scaring me at all. The Kings are on the last game of a 5-game road trip, gone 0-4 to start it. And these are the Kangs we're talking about. I think they just want to go back to Sacramento, and Julius Randle will be lined up against Marvin Bagley III, and I think that's a matchup that he will want to destroy. It is one of the worst defenses in the league he's going up against. And although Randle hasn't played well, the Knicks do play well versus below 500 teams, and they need a win. They've lost 3 straight. It's the first time they're playing the Kings this season, but he went over the 18.5 point line in his 2 games against the Kings last year. Now, you may say, this is a different Julius Randle than last year. Mm-hmm. Totally true, but he's got to get his average at some point, and so I think this is a perfect game to do that. He's averaging like around that number recently, and again, it's the Kings, so I think he's going to go over it.
Good spot, like you said. For a cold player, you get a home game against an opponent you're much better than. Knicks favored by 6.5 in this game. Like this is the right spot. This is the right spot to come out of it, both team environment wise, with the Knicks going up against the Kings being big favorites, and then matchup wise, as you pointed out, Julius Randle going to see plenty of Marvin Bagley. Both of those point us in the right direction on Julius Randle here. Let me throw this at you though. If it goes wrong, where does it go wrong for you?
Well, they're going to double him, and that he has to. He's going to pass off and just won't get enough shot attempts, I suppose, to get to that 18.5 point line. But yeah, that's what he's averaging this season, which seems wild after his All-NBA year last year. And again, he's got to hit that number at some point. So the Kangs, I don't think they have the wherewithal to really double him and reduce those shot attempts. I think the process is right, like your Kobe White pick yesterday. They're going to play him one-on-one. He's going to go up against a player who he sees that he is superior than in Marvin Bagley a lot of the time. And he'll see like a younger player trying to make his way, a lefty, just kind of like him only a couple years back. So I think he'll want to beat that one pretty well, especially with the way he's playing recently. But the Kings are a healer of all. So I think this is a good spot on an 8-game slate to pick this one.
All right, I'm going to go back to an old friend here of mine, a guy who I've had some success with this season. Because again, I've lost 3 picks over the last 2 weeks. Went from 8-7 down to 8-10. So let's get back to an old reliable for us here, Desmond Bane, over 17.5 points, over 2.5 threes. This is a guy who's been a salve of sorts for me so far this season, Tass, and the Grizzlies in Philly, actually 3.5-point favorites in Philly later tonight. And this just has the right sort of feeling with the way that Bane has been such a scorer for this Memphis team all season long. Philly, if you look at the advanced metrics, they are generally above average defensively, generally slightly above average. They're not totally locking teams down. They're not letting teams run them out of the gym. Basically, though, when I'm looking at those numbers for betting purposes, I'm looking for teams at the extremes. If a team is extremely good, then maybe I stay away when I'm talking about a guy like Desmond Bane. If a team is extremely bad, then maybe I'm going even beyond the top few scorers on a team and looking to some other possibilities for guys who maybe have lower totals that they can get past. Philly's in that big, healthy middle where you basically just trust the player, in this case Desmond Bane, to do basically what he does. So I think a game where Memphis is favored, a game where we have a nice healthy 217.5 total in it, as we do in this game, with Bane going the way that he is going over these last few games. 19 points, 17, 20, 25, 16, 21 in his last 6 games. That's 3 before the COVID inactivity for Desmond Bane and 3 after the COVID inactivity. The minutes have been right there for him since coming out of health and protocols. So feel like he has his legs under him. He is basically able to do what he does. And we know that those 3-point attempts are going to be there for Desmond Bane. If he doesn't put up 6 or 7 threes, something has gone clearly wrong for him. So I think you add all that up, and both of these numbers feel awfully reasonable for him. 17.5 points, 2.5 threes. I think Desmond Bane goes north of both of those numbers tonight.
Yeah, and looking at the Sixers' last game, they played the Kings. Tyrese Halliburton was their off guard, like Bane will be tonight. And Tyrese Halliburton had 9 threes in that game. Now, he was sort of going off, but he was allowed to get 9 threes. And I imagine the Sixers focus on Ja Morant a little bit more, and Bane will have the shot attempts. I was looking at this game, too, because Embiid is a scratch the last hour or so. Deems to be just simply resting, I think. So I was just trying to figure out, is this one of those games I've been burned on before? Is this one of those games Philly rallies around each other without their star to win? Not touching it, but I like the Bane angle for sure. I think that's I think, Michael, that in an 8-game slate, still the Grizzlies. They're still the Grizzlies, and they're still kind of under the radar. I know everyone's talking about them, but specifically guys who are supporting Ja Morant.
Yes.
So yeah, Bane is one of those guys for sure.
Yeah, Morant is getting the full attention that he deserves, but maybe dwarfing the team a little bit. So even without Embiid, a win over a Philly team in Philly maybe puts Memphis out there a little bit more. And hey, Tyrese Halliburton, Desmond Bane, one Big 12 guy to another. Let's do it. Let's both of us get the Sixers here.
I don't know what language you're speaking, but I believe you.
Tyrese Halliburton, Iowa State. Desmond Bane, TCU. There you go. Couple of Big 12 guards, my friend. One more pick for us here on the show. Blazers and Thunder getting together tonight. The total 218.5. You like the over. Let's hear why.
I do, yeah. Portland, OKC. Portland's last 3 totals have been monstrous in their last 3 games: 246, 235, 244. So the question for me in this one is, will OKC score enough to help Portland get over that total, because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is out? And I think the Josh Giddey show here in game 1 of this run, where Josh Giddey will have the ball in his hands a ton, will be fine. I think the best move is probably for Portland to play off of him and let him shoot, because that's where he struggles, because he loves setting guys up. But this is sort of the first game as the lead guy, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander having an extended injury. And I think the Blazers aren't that good defensively, so they're going to play up on him, and he's going to be able to set guys up. And the Blazers are on a back-to-back, and they're on a road trip. They've got this bad defense. So I don't think they really play lockdown defense like they ever do against this OKC team. So that 218 scares me a little bit, in that Portland will put up the points, but will OKC. And I think because Giddey does love setting guys up, and maybe the scouting report isn't what the Blazers go after in terms of first game here. Maybe that'll happen a little bit later in this Giddey as the number 1 guy run. But in this first one, I think Portland will allow enough points to get to those large totals that they have been producing these last 3 games. So 218, a little scary for me, but I think it'll be a high score game, because Portland won't take OKC all that seriously, at least for the first 3 quarters of this game.
Blazers favored by 3.5 in this matchup. So if you're ever concerned about one team not being able to carry its weight. You definitely like to see a smaller spread rather than a bigger spread. Hope that this one doesn't get out of hand, and then it gives them more of an opportunity to carry their weight and get us north of that 218.5 number. 3 games or 3 bets, sort of 4 bets to watch here tonight. Julius Randle over 18.5. Give me all my Desmond Bain overs, and then Blazers Thunder over 218.5. That's going to do it for us here on Best on the Board. For Tass, for DeWitt, I'm Michael Beller. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Good luck. Happy betting. We'll talk to you soon.